And that, friends, is a response. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show, presented by BetUS as we celebrate. Yes, it is November. It is still before Thanksgiving. It is still very early in the NBA calendar, but given how this Knicks season has started out, and more than that, just given the trials and tribulations that this franchise has had for a very long time now, and how patient this fan base has been waiting for a team that they could really get behind and that they could really believe has the capability to win it all, that was special. That was an answer in the loudest possible sense after a game which had a lot of people starting to get a little nervous. Final score, not that it even matters, 145 to 118. There are so many directions that we could go to start this one, and I want to go at all of them at once because this game had everything you could possibly want if you were a Knicks fan. It had, obviously, OG Anunoby getting a career high. We're going to talk a lot about him. It had the Knicks tying their franchise record. This franchise has been around since the inception of the National Basketball Association. They've been around since before it was the NBA, since it was the Basketball Association of America. They've been around since before they recorded assists as a consistent stat. In all that time, they have never had more assists in a game than they did tonight. 45 ties the record that they originally set in 1979 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. We're going to talk about the passing tonight for sure. We're going to talk about Jalen Brunson, who had the lion's share of those assists. I mean, everybody chimed in with assists, but he had his personal career high with 17. We're going to talk about all of it. But for as amazing as those numbers are, I have to start with how this was an answer. Because what we saw in Utah, and again, I added the caveat when I did the post game. Immediately, I said, look, one team shot 50-something% from three. The other team shot whatever they ended up shooting, 33% from three, and it was below 30% for much of the game. I said, I get it. It's an excuse. It's an easy excuse. It's a convenient excuse in the year of our Lord 2024 when any team can beat any other team because of 3-point variance. And by the way, you saw that 3-point variance rear its head tonight, except the shoe was on the opposite foot. It absolutely factored in because the Denver Nuggets are not 28 points worse than the New York Knicks, with all due respect to our beloved team that we root for here. 3-point variance is gonna show itself up a lot, and it showed itself up in Utah. But that Utah game was about more than that, and anybody who watched the game knew it. And it was about a starting five who I would say didn't even let go of the rope because they never had grip of the rope from the start of the game. And what really crystallized it for me, and I'm not saying that this starting five has figured it all out. Benji Ritholtz says, no grand proclamations in the first 20 games, good or bad, right? Well, maybe a few grand proclamations about this offense because I think we've gotten enough of a sample size. We'll get back to that. Not saying the starting five has figured it all out defensively. They're still going to have issues. And I actually think, funny enough, Denver, for as much of a house of horrors as this has been or as that place was for the Knicks, and just the playing Denver in general, it didn't matter where it was just such an awful matchup for them for the entire Nikola Jokic era. Now it's like oddly not a good matchup because I don't think Denver's a good matchup for any defense, but because they don't really want to take threes, and how do you beat the Knicks? You fire away from three. And because Towns, he gets up for these games against Jokic. But speaking of Benji, he said it, he tweeted out tonight. You could see he had a little extra pep in his step defensively. So Anyway, so yeah, but that Utah game, the starting unit had a defensive rating of over 150. I think it was 151. And it got me to go back and look at the defensive rating for the starters in all of the games that they've lost this year. And with one exception, which was the Cavs loss, every other loss they have, the starting five had a defensive rating. I think it was at least 139, somewhere between 139 and 170, which was their defensive rating against the Celtics in the opener. So this starting unit has not only been overall bad defensively coming into tonight, but they have been bad to a degree that is almost unfathomable. Again, the worst defense in the league doesn't give up 120 points per 100 possessions. And this starting five coming into tonight in 6 of their 7 losses had given up 139 or more per 100 possessions. So for them to come in and set the tone early on defense, I thought, for everything that we are going to be excited about and celebrate and yell and scream and jump up and down about from this game, the defense out of the gate is the thing that is going to have me most excited as far as things that I will take away and store in the back of my mind is like, okay, that's something I could latch onto as a hashtag meaningful thing moving forward. Because at the end of the day, whether they get 45 assists or not, or whether OG Anunoby goes for 40 or not, or Brunson goes for 17 assists or not, or Towns goes for 30 or not, they're going to score enough. This team is going to score. This team is the roster they've assembled is absurd. They're going to score enough points. It is about whether they could stop teams enough. And tonight they came in to a team that after a rough start to the season had really started to put together. And when Jokic is on the floor, I forget what the exact number is as far as the specific on-court number, but I did look it up earlier today. Coming into the game, the Denver Nuggets were 33 points per 100 possessions better with Nikola Jokic on the court this season. That obviously is the best number in the league. They're a contender when Jokic is on the floor and he plays whatever in the high 30s in terms of minutes every game. So for them to take it to the to the Nuggets offense like they did, was it perfect? No. Did they benefit from a few missed threes? Yeah, sure they did. But that effort that they came out with tonight defensively compared to the effort that they came out with against Utah and in a lot of the games that we've seen this season, night and day. And I'm not sure I've seen them play better defense against a quality offense at any point in time through now, what was this, the 17th game of the year. And for that reason, I'm going to do and this is going to lead us into the next section of the post game. I'm going to do my autograph signature of the moment, signature play of the game. Excuse me. It is the signature play of the moment. Signature play of the game right now, presented by our friends at Autograph. Go download the Autograph app. You can see all kinds of great stuff on there, like my Macri's 3x3, which is on the app right now. Me looking back 3 things last week, previewing 3 things from the week ahead. And one of the things that I previewed in my 3x3 or talked about looking for moving forward was, can the starters start to show some semblance of defense? And that's why my autograph signature moment of the game is it was late in the first half, and I know they had already built up a fairly sizable lead. They had gone up by as many as 23, but Denver was starting to make a little push. They had gotten it under 20. They had actually gotten it down to 14 points. Cat had a big and one. That was a big play. But the signature moment of the game for me was the OG. It wasn't a weak side block. It was almost like a side block where he came over after Towns played exceptional initial defense on Jokic. OG swatted it away, and he ended up getting to finish that play off, made the score 69-50. They ended up going into the half with a 23-point lead, and with all due respect to anything Russell Westbrook did in the fourth quarter, the game was never really in doubt after that. And that is thanks again to Autograph, signature moment of the game. Again, go download the Autograph app. Make sure if you haven't downloaded it yet, use code KFS when you download. And that's going to lead me to OG Anunoby, which I got to take a little sip of my wine, please, before I talk about the man of the hour. So OG Anunoby signed a contract this summer for $220 million. It's the largest contract ever handed out by this franchise, and might be. I mean, don't look now, guys, but Karl-Anthony Towns is going to be extension eligible before you know it. This summer, I believe, he's extension eligible. Just throwing that out there. I think the OG extension is or new contract is going to wind up being the biggest contract in the franchise is given out for a little while. I don't know if they're going to exceed that. Probably, maybe not until Brunson signs his next deal after the extension he just signed. And it raised some eyebrows. It raised some eyebrows because he's a guy who hasn't been able to stay healthy throughout his career. And granted, we're talking about he's been healthy so far this season. And that's a big thing. And we don't want to take that for granted. But it's also because that is star money. You know, $220 million. That is it superstar money? Is it star money? I mean, we're splitting hairs here. It's star money. And OG Anunoby's guy never made an all-star team. And I think the prevailing thought was, especially after they made the Mikal Bridges trade, and at the time Randall was here, you figure, well, the guy's fourth on the depth chart. He's probably never going to be an all-star. And then that only kind of, I think, solidified in my mind after they made the Towns trade. And I don't think that was a crazy assessment at the time for anybody who may have said it, because it's a guy, you know, what is he going to average? 14, 15, maybe points a game. Even if he is the best wing defender or one of the two or three best wing defenders in the sport, he doesn't really generate offense in the way that all-stars tend to generate offense. So you figure, what's the path? Well, tonight you saw the path. And I don't know if I had to redo my all-star East All-Stars. I did them on Friday with Andrew Claudio, and I mentioned this during the halftime Zoom. Shout out to all my Substack subscribers that I had him 13th. He was my last man out. I had Derek White one little smidgen over him, and then I think I had RJ actually as my 14th guy. I think I might have to redo that list now, because when you factor in that I mean, we'll get to the Mikal conversation later. I'm holding off on that. Although it was nice to see him hit that last three, let me tell you. Needed that like water in the desert. But, yeah, back to OG. He's the best defender on the team, and it's not close. Or he has been the best defender on the team, and it's not close. Where they would be without him defensively, I don't want to think about. But I got to tell you, and yeah, I got to mention it here, given how Mikal Bridges has shot the ball, and given how their other quote-unquote like strong wing defender and Hart has been good defensively. And Mikal's been better defensively. Like Mikal's defensively, I know he had a couple moments in the first quarter of this game that maybe weren't great, but defensively he's been better of late. Josh Hart's been fine defensively. So, but Josh Hart is not scaring anybody from three. And Mikal Bridges this season hasn't been able to hit a three from above the break, at least. And now he's kind of struggling from everywhere. So for as valuable as OG Anunoby is defensively for this team, and I think a couple people may have tweeted something to this effect tonight. I saw someone tweeted. I don't want to take credit for it. This is not my original thought, although I completely agree with it. Is it possible? Oh, it's XJ. I saw XJ. There you go. My own Knicks Film School brother in here. He's been more valuable offensively for not only the threat of his ability to make threes, which have been automatic, but his ability to put the ball on the floor. And we're not talking about, all right, he's a guy, like if you run him off the line, he could take a couple dribbles and like he has one move. No. This guy, if he puts the ball on the floor inside the arc, I'm not saying, he turns into, LeBron James in there, but like he could do some different things and he could get points in a lot of ways. Is he the best playmaker once you run him off the line? No, but like OG's always good to make the right pass. He's always good to make the next play. He's always good to keep the ball moving. But his ability to score inside the arc, again, is that offensive creation in the way that we typically use that phrase in the NBA today? No, not really. But it certainly generates offense when you know you have that guy who's capable of doing that stuff. And when you place him on the floor with a Jalen Brunson and a Karl-Anthony Towns, how in God's name are you supposed to stop this offense? And I don't think any defense has quite figured out the answer. Yeah, you switch. Okay. Well, the three teams that did that aptly, Houston, Cleveland, and Boston to start the year, those were all early on in the year. I would go so far as to say that this offense has grown by leaps and bounds since then, and I would say that OG Anunoby is getting better and better since then. Is it possible that he's now coming into the prime of his career and we haven't seen his offensive ceiling until now? I don't think that that's nuts at all. And I'm not just saying that because he got 40 tonight. It was an incredible display of his offensive prowess. I'm saying that because of the whole season sample size. So, incredible night for OG Anunoby. And I'm really happy because I think this will put him on the map in a more significant way in terms of garnering all-star consideration outside of our bubble here. And I'm very, very, and it's going to be a tough one because immediately the conversation is going to turn to, do the Knicks really deserve 3 all-stars? And that's going to bring me to the next part of the conversation, which, and again, did he have as loud of a game as Jalen Brunson? I know he scored 30 points. I'm talking about Karl-Anthony Towns, of course. 30 points, 15 rebounds. Jalen Brunson, 23 points, 17 assists. Brunson, 14 shots. Towns, my God. Okay, here you go. Want to know what the Karl-Anthony Towns in a nutshell? I'm like, yeah, wasn't that loud of an offensive performance. The man had 30 points on 15 shots, and already I'm sitting here brushing it off like, yeah, but that's whatever. It's Towns, of course. Like, what's the big deal? When you could talk about your best 2 players like that, as I am now talking about Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, you're probably a pretty good basketball team when you just come to expect that stuff. And like Towns, like, talk about brushing off the Utah performance. My God. Did he ever do that in a significant way? But I'm grouping him with Brunson, even though, again, in my estimation, Brunson had the louder performance for a couple reasons. One, 17 assists is a career high by 2 for him. And it's hard to go out there and get 17 assists for anybody. And his passing prowess this year, and I can't wait until the stats update, which I'm going to have ready. I'll keep hitting that refresh button because I'm pretty sure this will take him over 8 assists per game for the season. He came into tonight, Jalen Brunson did, averaging 7.4 assists per game. So actually, I don't know if it's going to take him over. It might still be a little bit short, maybe 7.8, 7.9. We'll see. But his growth, and it's so funny because we talked about early on over the first 5, 6, 7, 8 games, man, Brunson not looking like Brunson. You can't figure out the balance between finding his shot and getting his teammates involved. Well, sure, shit feels like he's finding the balance now. And the fact that it is manifesting itself in even more of the passing, and yet his efficiency is, I know he was off in Utah, but his efficiency as the season has progressed along has gotten better and better and better. Incredible stuff for him. I thought he set the tone early on with some really, really, really good shot making. It gets lost in the shuffle because OG did what he did and the Knicks did what they did as a team. But when it was 34-22, back when this was still very much a game, they made it 34. A JB3 made it 34-22. It gave him the double-digit lead, their first double-digit lead of the game. He was 5 of 7 at that point for 12 points. They had 34 points at the time. The Knicks from that point forward scored 111 more points, and Jalen Brunson only scored 11 points more. And I think that was purposeful on his behalf. That's a leader. That's a point guard. That's the guy you want running your show. Incredible 5-star, no notes, A+ game for Jalen Brunson, even though he only scored 23 points. Talked about Towns already. He deserves to be grouped in there just because, again, the impact when it's going good, it's going great for this offense. And those were your big three tonight, but everyone deserves a shout out. Josh Hart got in on the scoring, gave them a total of 7 guys with to go in double figures. 12 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Just, it's been a great Josh Hart season. Perfect from the field, by the way, 5 for 5 from the field. I loved, once again, the energy from the bench when they came in to maintain that defensive tone. And if you want to say ratchet it up a little bit, Jericho Sims didn't score. I think Jericho Sims did a really nice job defensively. Campaign did what Campaign does, hit a few threes, got in people's faces, is a general, pun intended, pain in the ass. And then how nice was it? How nice was it to have our man Deuce back? Probably should have mentioned that closer to the top, but I'll save the best for last because Deuce McBride is such a pivotal part of this team, and they have survived his absence. And I think everybody was reminded very quickly tonight how important he is on both ends of the floor. Gives them another guy who's kind of a pit bull on the defensive end and just is active and energy and all of that sort of thing. And then on the offensive end, his shot making just like picked up right where I left off. I thought his 2 threes in the early third quarter when Denver was kind of maybe sort of kind of thinking about making one final push, he hit a 3 that gave them their highest lead of the game, 89-72 or 62. And then he hit another 3 to push the lead back to 25 after Denver made what constituted for them as a run in this game. They had a little 5-0 run. Deuce hit a 3, got it back to 25 points. I thought both of those were really big. There were so many big plays in this game. Every time Denver even thought about making a push, somebody came up with a big bucket. JB, again, picks his spots. Straightaway 3 to push it back to 95-69 after it was down to 23. And again, 23 points in this league is not a lot. Sims had a big block shortly after that. And then you had the massive run by OG Anunoby. It was just a banner effort. I said I was going to talk about Mikal Bridges before I get to the super chats. I'll do it now. Look, the fact that, and I'm also going to be hitting the refresh button on the team's advanced stats page because I'm going to wait and see, do the Knicks have the number 1 offense in the league after tonight? I suspect they will be just short of Cleveland. As of right now, they are tied with the Boston Celtics for number 2 at 120.9. The fact that they have the offensive rating that they do and Bridges has been so underwhelming from deep, and like it got a little scary there for a minute tonight. But you know what? Night is darkest before the dawn. I was having a conversation with someone on text who will not be named right now. And I was like, when Mikal Bridges gets back to normal, and this person was like, no, if. I'm like, no, when. This guy's been in the league 7 years. Maybe you want to give his first couple years were a little iffy. For the last 5 years, this guy has been an elite, not a good, not a great, an elite NBA role player in every facet. I know he tinkered with his shot. We could talk about why he tinkered with his shot, maybe in his head a little bit, trying to live up to the trade. Whatever it is, he'll figure it out. It's been 17 games. He's going to be fine. It may be ugly for another little while. For however long it is, he deserves the benefit of the doubt because he has earned it, because he has been that solid of a player for that long. So, and it was, again, great to see him hit that 3 towards the end there. But again, just going back to Deuce for half a second, it was interesting when Denver was trying to make a push towards the end of that first half. Not only did Hart come back in with 3 fouls, Deuce McBride closed the half after being out for as long as he's been over Mikal Bridges. Thought that was notable. So Tibbs clearly, he's playing Mikal a ton of minutes, but you could tell when push comes to shove right now, and we saw this obviously at the end of the Utah game, maybe the trust factor is not there. He'll get there. I'm not worried.